Oh, goodness. I don't know if I'm on here. Hello, everyone. I'm Kris.
And I'm Jack, and we're going to spend the next 17 minutes and about 53 seconds showing you how transgender rights benefit you personally.
Now, you might be thinking, I'm not transgender. How could this possibly affect me?
Or maybe you're thinking, I don't even know anyone transgender.
Well, you're wrong, because we're both transgender, and now you know us.
Dude, that's not the point, man.
Oh, sorry.
As we were saying, you don't have to be transgender or even know anyone transgender.
Even though you do now.
To be affected by the gender norms, ideals, and stereotypes that hinder many transgender folks. But we'll get to all that in a bit. First, we need to go over some basic terminology. In order to comprehend who we are and where we're coming from, you'll need a basic understanding of gender, sex, and sexuality.
Ooh, can we talk about sexuality first?
Be my guest.
As it so happens, I have a poem written for just such an occasion.
You carry a poem explaining sexuality around in your pocket?
Doesn't everyone? It comes in handy more often than you might think. Anyways, there once was an attractive young buck, full of stamina and vigor and pluck. Sexuality, said he, is as clear as can be. It's that person you want to come home to at the end of the day. What do you think I was going to say?
Huh. Well, who knew a limerick could be so informative? Yes, sexuality is to whom you are attracted. Now, the next concept that we need to understand is the difference between gender and sex.
Oh, I got this, okay? Gender is between your ears, and sex is between your legs.
Yes.
Nailed it.
Nah, no.
Oh.
What you said is an okay place to start as long as you recognize that it's really only the beginning. Now, sex is in part your anatomy, like your reproductive organs and external genitalia.
Vaginas and penises.
I think they got that.
What?
It's also things like chromosomes, hormones, gonads, and a plethora of secondary sex characteristics, such as body hair,
How much you sweat.
your Adam's apple or bone density,
Whether you have boobies or pecs.
muscle to fat ratio and distribution.
Vas deferens and fallopian tubes.
Okay, dude, first of all, those are primary sex characteristics, and why vas deferens, of all things?
Well, I just really got into the list, and it's really fun to say. You should try it.
Right, so when a person has a penis and vas deferens, produces primarily testosterone, and has an XY chromosome, we say that that person is male.
Okay. So when a person has a vagina, produces primarily estrogen, and has an XX chromosome, we say that person is female.
Now, there are also times when a person's hormones, chromosomes, and genitalia don't align in this way. And in those instances, we say that that person is intersex. We may also classify a person as intersex if they have ambiguous genitalia, which occurs in 1 in every 500 or so births.
So sex is male, female, or intersex.
Yes.
What is gender?
Well, when you're born, the doctor takes a look at your genitalia and says that you're male, female, or possibly intersex. If your genitals fit into that neat category of female, you're given a pink armband and swaddled in a matching blanket. If you're male, you'll be given a blue armband and blanket.
That sounds like sex.
Exactly.
What?
Well, we're given a gender based on our sex, based on our genitalia. The boys dressed in blue will be told that they're tough, masculine, and handsome. They will grow up playing with action figures, trucks, and balls.
You said balls.
You can't take them anywhere. The girls, on the other hand, will be dressed in pink. They will be told that they're pretty, delicate, feminine. They will grow up playing with stuffed animals and dolls.
So gender is the clothes we wear and the toys we play with.
Yes, and a lot more. As we grow up, we learn a lot of gendered things. As you said earlier, gender is between your ears, implying that it's something that we learn. Men are taught to posture, and they're taught to occupy as much space as they physically can. Women are taught to take up the least amount of space possible.
Oh, okay, gotcha, okay. So women are taught to speak quietly and not interrupt, while men are taught to be loud and assertive or authoritative.
Exactly. Now, speaking quietly isn't ingrained, just as sitting like a dude is not hardwired. We learn these traits as we watch the world around us, and that's why masculinity and femininity and the clothing, toys, and careers that we associate with the gender vary greatly depending on culture, race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, and the country that you're born in.
So what you're saying is Like in Scotland, it's manly to wear a skirt. I mean, excuse me, it's a kilt. Sorry.
Basically.
Okay.
So when we talked about sex, we said that there are three major options: male, female, and intersex. But we should note that sex is a vast spectrum, where you might have male at one end, female at the other end, intersex somewhere in between, or scattered along the spectrum of hormones, chromosomes, and genitalia, or even possibly outside of this spectrum. Gender is constructed in a similar way.
Okay, so you would have masculinity at one end of the spectrum and femininity at the other.
Right. We assume that people born male will be masculine and people born female will be feminine, but in reality, we all embody some traits that are masculine and some that are feminine.
So you're saying that no one is 100% masculine?
Yeah, I think you could argue that point.
Okay. What about James Bond?
Well, nobody who isn't fictional is 100% masculine.
Oh, okay. Here's another one for you. Chuck Norris. He's real.
Okay, that's true, and I'll concede a little bit, but Chuck Norris has this larger-than-life persona in the media that I doubt even he lives up to in his personal life.
Yeah? Batman.
Dude, I keep telling you, Batman's not real.
Stop lying to me.
Moving
Rude.
on. Just as there are more options than male and female, there are more options than masculine and feminine. Now, when somebody is born male but feels more feminine, feels like a woman, we call that person transgender, and the same is true in reverse. Now, there are also individuals who feel that they are very much simultaneously always both masculine and feminine, or neither masculine nor feminine, and they fall into the very broad category of genderqueer. Transgender and genderqueer individuals may or may not wish to pursue medical or surgical options to bring their bodies more in line with the gender that they identify with.
So, trans or transgender is an umbrella term that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. For me, it meant that growing up, deep down, I always felt like a boy, and I liked running through the mud and playing with trucks. I loved having short hair, and I despised wearing dresses. A lot of my friends growing up were boys, and I always hoped and dreamed and prayed that one day I would just wake up and be the boy that I always saw myself as. Well, puberty hit. That didn't happen. I also didn't get my letter to Hogwarts. You know, overall, it was a pretty disappointing year. Huh. Anyways, I decided I should probably do something about it. So I went to my mom and I told her that I wanted to be a boy, and she helped me go to a counselor and a doctor, and I started taking testosterone. It's been 10 years since I came out, and I've been so much happier since then.
Now for me, the process was a bit different. I didn't necessarily feel like a boy growing up, but when I was in college, I came out as a lesbian. I shaved my head, I bought a leather jacket, and I started riding motorcycles. So don't tell my mom that motorcycle bit, because she'd still kill me.
It's true.
I was becoming more and more masculine, and so when I learned that being transgender, that transitioning, taking hormones, having surgery was an option, that seemed like the next logical step for me. Now, when I was a woman, I was unacceptably masculine. I was told on a number of occasions that I was in the wrong bathroom because I had short hair or because of the way I dressed. Even though I transitioned, I still do gender wrong. As a man, I'm unacceptably feminine. I'm frequently told that I use too many hand gestures or that my face is too expressive.
It was okay to be a tomboy up about the time until I hit junior high, and then I was magically expected to be able to wear makeup, read magazines, and take an interest in boys. When I failed to take an interest in any of these things, I got ridiculed a lot.
The experiences that we have with doing gender incorrectly have very little to do with being transgender. When you're told that you're in the wrong bathroom because somebody assumes your sex based on cues like your hair or your clothing, what they're really telling you is that you're showing your gender in a way that they don't expect and that they're not okay with it.
Like when you're told to man up.
When you're told you'd look prettier with a little makeup.
When a man is called a sissy because he doesn't want to play football.
Or a woman is called homely because she hasn't done her hair. These are acts of gender policing or gender bullying.
Now, gender bullying is a tactic used by the people around us to make us feel badly about the way in which we are embodying our gender, and it affects everyone.
The reality is, we've probably all participated in some form of gender bullying at some point without even realizing it. Now, a good first step is to be cognizant of the ways in which we unknowingly enforce harmful gender roles and stereotypes. But we also have to face institutionalized gender policing.
That's a fancy way of saying that there are systems of power that we all operate in that enforce binary gender roles.
For example, when you have to fill out your sex on a form and the only options are male and female.
Or when the uniform or haircut policy at your job or school differs for women and men.
When you need to use the restroom and the only options are ladies and gentlemen.
Or when you go shopping and the clothing departments are strictly divided into men's and women's.
These examples are just a few of many. Now, the problem with something like only having 2 sex options on a form is that it completely erases and invalidates the lives of transgender and intersex individuals whose bodies at birth or through hormones and surgery don't necessarily conform easily to just male or just female.
Now, this may still seem like an obscure problem if you're not transgender or intersex, so let's break this down a little bit more.
Many women probably know that sexism is alive and well and still pervades everywhere from the classroom to athletics to the office to home life. Now, sexism is both interpersonal,
like when someone says men are superior drivers or women are natural homemakers.
And sexism is also institutional.
For example, white women make 77 cents to every dollar that a white man makes, and this gap is even more for women of color.
Women are also less likely to receive a promotion even if their work is equal or superior to that of their male colleagues.
Now, women are expected to dress in a way that is neither too concealing nor too provocative. She needs to be cute and attractive, but not so attractive that she's a distraction to men, but also not so concealing that she's not seen as young and fun, but not so fun that she's seen as unprofessional. That makes sense.
We have the standard of beauty that expects women to be thin, but not too skinny, slightly curvy, but not fat. We have this unrealistic expectation that women will never age, and collectively, women spend billions of dollars every year on cosmetics and cosmetic surgeries to avoid wrinkles or sagging skin.
We have a standard of beauty that's based on a Barbie doll model that is physically impossible for women to live up to.
And women will go to such drastic lengths because they feel pressured to conform to this standard that as many as 1 in 25 women will develop an eating disorder in her lifetime.
Now, while eating disorders occur in men as well, they do so at much lower rates. There are a number of overweight men in Hollywood who are fairly successful, though they're often cast in the comedian role because, fat guy can't be a hero, right? Though I can only think of a handful of overweight women who make it to the big screen, and when they do, they're often cast as the butt of a cruel joke.
We hold men and women to a number of different standards besides just weight, and oftentimes women come off worse. For example, when a man sleeps around, he's regarded highly by his peers. It's a source of pride, and we call him a stud.
But when a woman sleeps around, she's seen as dirty, promiscuous, and it's a source of shame. We call her a slut.
While men can generally walk alone at night without a fear of violence, we teach women to protect themselves from predators.
And this is exactly what's wrong with the gender roles that we have today. We have this sentiment of boys will be boys, and we use it to negate and excuse a lot of men's behaviors.
We're teaching our daughters that it is their responsibility to avoid being raped rather than teaching our sons not to rape. These are gender roles at their most extreme, at their most harmful, and it affects men and women alike.
Now, while men may not be as affected by sexism as women are, we still hold men to some pretty harmful and unrealistic gendered expectations. While we know that women can hold traditionally men's occupations, such as firefighters and police officers, as a society, we tend to devalue men who go into traditionally women's occupations. We belittle and harass our male preschool teachers, nurses, secretaries, and social workers.
Though we should note that men in traditionally women's occupations still get more raises and promotions because, as we said earlier, sexism still exists in a lot of institutional ways.
Men are expected to excel at work, provide for their families, and bring home the proverbial bacon.
And this is really just the beginning. We expect all men to have a basic understanding of car mechanics,
to know the rules and major players of most sports,
to know how to use every power tool in existence,
to be good in bed,
to know how to get out of any situation with a paperclip and a piece of string.
to never have to ask for directions.
We expect men to be strong, athletic, and coordinated, but we have to label their coordination accuracy, because being graceful wouldn't be masculine.
Men are supposed to never let anyone best them in a fight, and are taught to fight for their dignity, their honor, and their masculinity.
Now, teaching little boys that fighting is the path to manhood leads to more violent masculinities and increases men's violence toward women, men's violence toward other men, and men's violence toward themselves.
We have this trope of what makes a real man, and it is very, very narrow. We paint the real man as able-bodied, which is harmful to all of the men who aren't. We pretend that masculinity and disability cannot intersect.
And maybe it's for all of these reasons that men have so many stress-related health issues. Men tend to avoid the doctors, so any health issues that they do have tend to become exacerbated.
No, men also tend to avoid cancer screenings, either thinking that they are invincible or that talking about their prostates or testicles is too embarrassing or emasculating.
Men avoid mental health counseling or even talking about their feelings with their friends, which leads to higher rates of suicide among men than women.
And when men attempt suicide, they tend to pick more violent, fail-proof methods.
All in all, we hold men to some pretty unrealistic expectations.
And as Jack so rudely pointed out, none of us are Batman.
You're not gonna let that go, are you?
No.
Truth be told, we hold everyone to some pretty unrealistic gendered expectations. And the crazy thing is, it's not like masculinity and femininity are these mutually exclusive categories. If we had a gender Venn diagram...
A gender Venn diagram, if you will.
Yes.
Or a Gen diagram. Yeah.
We would...
Gen diagram.
We would have masculine people in one circle.
And feminine people in the other.
But since no one can be all masculine all the time and no one can be all feminine all the time, these circles wouldn't just have an area where they overlap.
They would in fact eclipse each other.
As human beings, it's impossible to be 100% masculine or 100% feminine all the time. Yet we hold ourselves to these standards that say that we must be. Our failure to live up to these standards greatly influences our tendencies toward eating disorders, violence, and suicide.
Yep. And these standards are amplified for transgender individuals who are told they either need to be strictly masculine or strictly feminine. Society puts pressure on us to prove our identities. And it's for these reasons, and many others, that transgender folks have been fighting to express their genders in the way that is the most meaningful to them for decades.
But we still have a lot of work to do. We all need to realize that a lot of the difference and bullying, a lot of the issues that make us doubt ourselves, that cause low self-esteem, a lot of these problems are really rooted in how we perceive and police gender.
The rights that transgender folks are fighting for every day don't just affect them. Gender affects everyone.
And the sooner that we realize that transphobia, sexism, and gender stereotyping are all very much interrelated,
the sooner we realize we're all struggling against the same oppressions.
The sooner we realize we have more in common than we do different.
And the sooner we start celebrating those differences.
The better off we're all going to be.
We have the opportunity to erase and get rid of all gender bullying and gender policing by simply recognizing that a lot of the moments where we've been bullied, harassed, or ridiculed have been based on integral parts of ourselves, such as gender, race, ethnicity, and ability, and the expectations that others put on us that we fail to live up to.
We all want a world where we can be safe, happy, and free to express ourselves. And it doesn't matter if you're transgender or not, our liberation is your liberation too.
We're not here to teach you how to be allies to transgender communities.
We're just here to let you know that you have a chance to do something. We are working on making the world a more equitable place, and we'd appreciate your help in any facet that you're able.
So, like Batman before you, do your part to make the world a little brighter.
Take some time to think very critically about the way that you're embodying your gender, and then don't judge or police or bully anybody else's gender.
And let's unite and help one another to let our gender flags fly freely.
Thank you.
Thank you.